Hello, welcome back to the Watford Way. James here, looking ahead to Derby County away on Saturday afternoon. But before we dive into my thoughts on them, I want to quickly touch on our last Championship fixture that happened last night, actually, as I record this video against Cardiff City away from home. As you know, the game was rearranged because of Storm Dara that crossed the UK a few weeks ago. This was Watford's game in hand, and of course, having a game in hand, you really want to take advantage. And whilst Watford didn't come away with 3 points, we come away, in my opinion, with quite an undeserved point. I thought Cardiff City yesterday were excellent. I think they fully deserved to win the game, if I'm going to be totally honest. But the Crow popped up again, Vacuum Bio popping up quite late on in the match. I think it's around 85 minutes played in the end, where Vacuum Bio scored that quite powerful header, actually, just in the centre of the goal. A great run by Kwadwo Bar, a great ball over to Bio as well from Bar, picking up another assist for him as well. So yeah, all in all, the performance was pretty boring. It was pretty tepid. You could clearly see that Tom Cleverley set up to not concede for a large period of that match. And whilst that worked, as I said, for an hour or so, what it meant was Watford just didn't play any, attacking, entertaining, exciting football whatsoever. It was really boring to watch. Probably the most boring match, actually, I've watched from Watford this season, which is certainly a stark contrast when you compare it to the fantastic run we went on at the start of the season. And at Vicarage Road, we were playing some really exciting stuff. And away from home, it's been the same story week in, week out. We haven't kept an away clean sheet since April against Ipswich, I believe. And yeah, that run carries on, unfortunately. Hopefully, we'll pick up a clean sheet away at Derby this weekend. And that's where I'll hand it over to our guest, Jake Barker from the Rams Talk podcast, to get his thoughts on the fixture.
Hi guys, thank you for having me back on. I'm Jake. I'm from Rams Talk podcast, and yeah, Derby season. I mean, since we last met, I remember the excitement going into that Watford game, and it was quite a big game for us. It was our first. We had that game against Blackburn where we kind of got battered 4-2. And there was a lot of hope going into this. We'd won our first home game of the season. There was a lot of optimism. And when Ebu Adams lashed in that volley within the first couple of minutes, there was real hope. And eventually your quality and a quite ridiculous overhead kick ended up getting you the win against us. But looking more recently, I mean, Derby haven't been in great form since, well, pretty much then. 4 wins in 21 for Derby now, which is, a pretty dire run. We went a run where we won, I think, 2 in about 14 or something like that at one point. But we've got some important wins recently, especially at home. 4-0 trouncing at Portsmouth. We beat West Brom 2-1 at home as well. But that West Brom game is pretty much the only good game in our last 5. We've lost 4 of our last 5. A late collapse at Luton where we were 1-0 up with about 2 minutes to go and ended up losing 2-1. A 1-0 defeat at home to Leeds, which, there's no shame in that. Their goal was real quality as well, and we just didn't have the quality to do anything up the other end. 4-2 defeat away at Sheffield Wednesday. I mean, that was painful. But then again, you look at some of the goals they scored from the halfway line. So I think we actually played all right, weirdly, in that game. And then a 1-0 defeat away at Bristol City. Now, that was really poor. Derby didn't look anywhere near the level that they needed to be. They looked tired, and Paul Warne came out at the end and said, the team just looks shattered. We don't have a lot of depth. We've got a lot of injuries, and it showed that we were playing a lot of squad players as well. So looking at Derby, we don't look the most threatening team, but when we play at home, we're a bit of a different animal. Results haven't been great, but performances bar Bristol City have been better. We went on a period where it looked like we were scared to go forwards, including 1-1 draws with the likes of Plymouth, with the likes of Hull, other teams down there right at the bottom. And we didn't really go for the jugular when ahead or level in those games. And it ended up going on to cost us vital points. So yeah, it's going to be a really interesting one. Regarding injuries, Erin Cashin is likely to be out injured. He's probably our best centre-back by, some margin. And yeah, he's out injured. Ryan Nyambi's been out injured for the majority of the season, probably our most solid defensive right-back as well. Trying to think who else is injured. You've got David Ozo, who's been out for a long time. Really good holding midfielder. I think he made a little bit of an error. He switched off a little bit for Watford's second goal, but apart from that, he'd been faultless until injury. And yeah, it's just a strange time for Derby because we've got a lot of injuries in the middle as well. We had Ibu Adams out with a concussion. He's going to miss the game against Leyton Orient in the Cup as well. We're missing a lot in the middle. We're missing a lot up front. I mean, we really lack a striker. Jerry Yates, he's worked hard all season. He's got 6 goals, and he's really deserved of those 6 goals as well because he's had to fight for every single one of them. But he just doesn't have that sort of all-round game that you kind of need to play as a lone centre forward. He's not really big enough, so he doesn't seem to threaten. So yeah, Derby are not probably the biggest force in the world at the minute, but I think we do have something. Just having a look at your questions. You've got January transfer window. I mean, Sonny Bradley's got out on loan to Wickham. Joe Ward is very highly linked to go to Mansfield on loan as well. We'll see if that gets done before Saturday. Other outgoings, Tawanda Chiriwa, who was on loan from Wolves. He was a winger or attacking midfielder. We've sent him back. He didn't really impress when he was here. So there's been no incomings as of yet. There's a couple of players that Derby are linked with, whether they'll get the likes of Harvey Nibbs from Reading, who scored 8 goals in League One through the door, or a Norwegian striker whose name I genuinely cannot remember. I've read it about 20 times. It's come out this evening that Derby are very, very close to sealing some sort of deal with him. And the fee is, a pretty decent deal too. And he'd scored 12 goals for Viking in the Norwegian Premier Division. He's a bit bigger. So a lot of it's just rumour at the minute. There's not a lot of, solid evidence of players Derby are bringing in. But that's the reality of where Derby are at the minute. We're not ready to spend big money on players. We're still struggling financially from administration a few years ago. Yes, we've not got the debt that we had, but we don't have the investment either. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting game. And score prediction, I mean, it seems weird that I've just said we barely ever win, but I actually genuinely back us to win this. Obviously, yourselves haven't been in the most inspiring of form, I'd say, too recently. And I really think we have a chance. If we can get 1 or 2 through the door, that'll give us a lift. And bringing a couple of players back from injury will be a really big thing for us too. Ibu Adams to the team makes a huge difference. You'll notice him. I mean, you'll have seen him when he scored that goal against you, but his energy in midfield that he brings is, really, really special. So I'm going to say hopefully a 1-0 Derby win. Again, I don't think we'll score too many. I don't think you'll score too many either. And I think Derby really need a clean sheet with, the likes of Nat Phillips, Curtis Nelson, Jakob Vidal Zetterstrom. Not having one of those for a little while. So, yeah, hopefully it's a Derby win. And, have a good game. Enjoy yourselves. And, I'm sure we'll hopefully we'll see you next season. But, maybe you guys can go up too. So best of luck for the rest of the season. And thank you for having me on.
Once again, massive thank you to Jake Barker from the Rams Talk podcast for his contribution to the video today. Very interesting stuff there from a Derby perspective, especially around their injury situation at the moment. And if I cast your mind back to the reverse fixture, as Jake did just then as well, you will remember that Vacuum Bio that day did score probably his best goal ever at Watford. That scorpion kick, that bicycle kick type goal in front of the family stand in the first half. It was a sensational finish, actually. I was shocked in the stand when it happened. I couldn't quite believe what I was watching. And then Musa Sissoko, I think, in the second half ultimately secured the 3 points for Watford in that game in front of the rookery end. But look, if Watford have any serious ambitions about getting into the playoff positions this season, I sit here week in, week out, and I repeat the same sentences over and over and over again. But we have to be beating teams like Derby. We should be beating teams like Cardiff, really, albeit we only come away with a draw. Derby sitting in 18th place in the Championship at the moment on 27 points. Watford sitting in 8th position. So a 10-place difference in the Championship between both sides going into this game. Of course, they have the home advantage as well. Watford, notoriously this season have very much struggled away from home. I mentioned earlier, we've not picked up an away clean sheet since Ipswich away back in April, which is, when I read that the other day, that was a staggering statistic, actually. It really, really was. I didn't realise it had actually been so long since we kept, an away clean sheet. But yeah, April against Ipswich is certainly some statistic. For Watford, I think it's clear that something has to happen in the transfer window, hopefully ahead of this game. It doesn't look like that will happen at the moment, but fingers crossed they have something, behind the scenes that's going on, because Tom Cleverley, not so subtly now, is really coming out publicly and saying that he needs reinforcements in his pre-match press conferences. And in his post-match interviews, he keeps repeating the same words, that he wants and needs some freshness through the door. And I think what he's doing there is sending a clear message to the powers that be at Watford, whether that's Juan-Luca Nani, our sporting director, whether that's Scott Duxbury, our CEO and chairman, or ultimately, of course, the man in charge of everyone, Gino Pozzo, who hopefully will open his wallet at some point this month and get his credit card out, because so far, the only player Watford have really been fully linked with is a 20-year-old Irish defender from Udinese, and that really isn't, what we need at the moment. We need legs in midfield. We need a new left back. We need a goal scorer. We don't really need, another Udinese, lonely, young, inexperienced centre back. So yeah, we'll have to see what happens. Of course, if anything does develop, I will do a video here on the Watford Way talking about hopefully a few more incomings. But so far, it's been very, very quiet on the transfer front. In terms of my score prediction for this game, I know Jake there went for a comfortable Derby win. I'm, of course, biased in favour of Watford. So I am going to go with our first away clean sheet since April. I'm going to go with a 2-0 Watford win, and I'll go with Bio and Vata to get the goals in this game. So let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you again very, very soon. Bye-bye.